Ladies and gentlemen, let's dive into something crucial today, a topic that many avoid discussing but desperately need to understand. Relationships are meant to be a foundation for growth, love, and fulfillment. But when one partner is trapped in the cycle of narcissistic behavior, the foundation begins to crumble. A narcissistic husband can treat his wife in ways that diminish her spirit, sap her energy, and erode her self-worth. But here's the truth. You have the power to reclaim your life, your voice, and your happiness. Awareness is power. Awareness is the foundation of transformation, my friends. Without it, we're walking blindfolded through life, bumping into walls, blaming the walls for being there, and wondering why we're stuck. But the moment we rip off that blindfold, everything changes. When you're in a toxic relationship, whether you recognize it or not, you're caught in patterns that feel normal because they've been repeated over and over. Maybe it started with small jabs, a comment here or there. Why can't you do anything right? Or you're so sensitive. And at first you brushed it off. But slowly over time, those words, those actions, no matter how small, start to shape how you see yourself. But here's the breakthrough. The second you step back, the second you observe and say, this is not okay. This is not normal. You take the first step toward reclaiming your power. Awareness gives you the ability to identify the patterns that have been holding you down. Think about this. If you're standing in a dark room and you keep tripping over the same piece of furniture, what's the first thing you do? You turn on the light. Awareness is that light. It illuminates what's hidden. It reveals what's been in the shadows, the lies you've been told, and the lies you've told yourself to cope. When you see the truth, it may hurt, it may feel like you've been hit by a tidal wave. But pain isn't the enemy here. Pain is a messenger. It's screaming, wake up. You deserve more than this. His behavior isn't your fault. I want you to stop, take a deep breath, and let this sink in. His behavior is not your fault. Say it again if you need to, because somewhere along the way, you've been made to believe a lie that if you were just better, if you were prettier, smarter, or more understanding, somehow the relationship would work. Let me tell you something. That is a load of garbage. People with narcissistic tendencies thrive on control. They want to control the narrative, the situation, and sometimes they want to control you. They'll twist their behavior, their failures, their shortcomings, and place it right at your feet as if it's a burden you created. And why? Because if you're busy blaming yourself, they don't have to face their own reality. But hear me now, you cannot take responsibility for someone else's brokenness. You cannot fix what you didn't break. And the more you try to bend, the more you contort yourself to fit their mold, the further you drift from your own truth, your own power, your own identity. This isn't about you not being enough. It's about them not being willing to confront the mirror of their own soul. Their manipulation, their criticisms, their inability to validate you, it's a reflection of their wounds, not yours. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with bricks, each one representing their insults, their blame, their guilt. For years, you've been hauling this weight, believing it's yours to bear, but today we're going to challenge that. Whose bricks are those, really? You see, if someone hands you a bag of garbage, you don't have to take it. The same goes for blame. The same goes for guilt. And the same goes for their inability to love you in the way you deserve. Their behavior is their choice, and their choices don't define your worth. Set boundaries like your life depends on it, because it does. Let me tell you something that might shock you. Boundaries are not just a preference. They are a necessity. They are the foundation of self-respect, the guardrails for your well-being, and the fortress that protects your soul. Without boundaries, you are an open field, vulnerable to the storms of someone else's chaos. But with boundaries, you become unstoppable. You reclaim control over your life. Now, setting boundaries isn't about being mean, selfish, or unkind. It's about saying, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and this is how I will be treated. It's about recognizing your own worth and demanding that the people in your life respect it. But here's the thing, setting boundaries with a narcissist, that's not a casual task. It's not just saying no or drawing a line in the sand. It's a battle, because when you set boundaries with someone who thrives on control, they will test you. They will push, prod, guilt, manipulate, and sometimes outright attack those boundaries. Why? Because your boundaries take away their power. And that's why you've got to make those boundaries as solid as a steel wall. No cracks, no gaps, no second guessing. You have to decide, this is what I will and will not tolerate. And then you have to stand in that decision with unshakable resolve. Think about it. If you don't define your boundaries, someone else will. And if you're dealing with a narcissist, their boundaries will never serve your growth or your happiness. They will serve their ego. They will serve their need to control. They will serve their narrative. But your boundaries, those are about your survival, your peace, your ability to thrive. Let me give you an example. Imagine a house with no doors or locks. Anyone can walk in, take what they want, make a mess, and leave you to clean it up. That's your life without boundaries. But when you build those doors, install those locks, and decide whose side it gets to come in and under what circumstances, suddenly you're in charge. Suddenly you're protecting what matters most, your energy, your time, your heart. Setting boundaries is an act of self-love. It's not about keeping people out. It's about keeping you in. It's about saying, I matter enough to protect my joy, my peace, and my freedom. Stop seeking his validation. Seek your own. Listen to me carefully. The need for validation is a human thing. We all want to feel seen, heard, appreciated. But the deadly trap is when we tie our worth to someone else's approval, especially someone who's incapable of giving it. If you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you know what I'm talking about. Validation feels like a carrot on a stick always dangled in front of you, but never truly within reach. You keep chasing it, keep bending over backward to earn that one moment of praise, that one sign that says you're enough. But every time you get close, it's yanked away and you're left wondering, what's wrong with me? But here's the truth. Nothing is wrong with you. The problem isn't that you're unworthy of validation. It's that you've been searching for it in the wrong place. Seeking validation from a narcissist is like trying to quench your thirst with salt water. The more you drink, the more you need, and the emptier you feel. Now is the time to stop chasing. Stop waiting for him to say you're amazing. Stop needing him to recognize your effort, your beauty, your intelligence. Because the moment you stop seeking his validation, you start seeking something far more powerful, your own. And let me tell you something, your validation is the only one that truly matters. When you validate yourself, when you look in the mirror and say, I am enough, I am worthy, I am powerful, something incredible happens. You take back your power. You no longer hand the keys to your happiness to someone else. You lock those keys inside your heart where they belong. Think about it. Why are you chasing scraps when you have the ability to give yourself the feast? Why are you waiting for him to clap for you when you can stand up and applaud yourself? This isn't about arrogance. It's about self-respect. It's about recognizing that you were never meant to beg for the very thing that already exists within you. And let's not sugarcoat it. This isn't easy. Breaking free from the need for someone else's validation feels like stepping off a cliff. It's terrifying because we've been conditioned to believe that our worth comes from how others see us. But the truth is, the world will see you the way you see yourself. So ask yourself, how are you showing up for you? Are you celebrating your wins, even the small ones? Are you honoring your strength, your resilience, your courage? Because the day you stop looking to him to fill your cup and you start filling it yourself is the day you take back your life. Your value doesn't decrease because he fails to see it. Your light doesn't dim because he refuses to acknowledge it. And your worth isn't dependent on his applause. It's rooted in your own belief. Stop chasing him. Start choosing you. Take your power back through action. Power is not something you wait for. It's not something someone hands to you. And it's definitely not something you get from hoping, wishing, or pleading for change. Power is something you claim, and you do it through one thing: action. When you're in a toxic relationship, it can feel like your power has been stripped away piece by piece. Every insult, every manipulation, every moment of control chips away at your sense of self. You start to believe the lie that you're powerless, stuck, or too weak to break free. But here's the truth you need to hear. Your power has never left you. It's been waiting for you to pick it up and use it. And the way you do that is by taking bold, courageous action. Now, action doesn't have to be massive. You don't have to climb a mountain or shout from the rooftops to take your power back. Action starts small. It starts with a single decision: I will no longer allow this to define me. It starts with saying, I am worthy of better, and then backing that belief with steps forward. Maybe for you, the first action is speaking up, saying no when you've always said yes, setting a boundary and holding it firm. Maybe it's seeking help, reaching out to someone you trust, or educating yourself about what you're experiencing. Every one of those steps, no matter how small, is an act of reclaiming your power. Here's what happens when you act. You disrupt the cycle. You interrupt the patterns that have kept you stuck. Because as long as you sit still, as long as you wait for the other person to change, nothing changes. Action is the antidote to helplessness. It's the bridge from victim to victor. And let me tell you something about action. It doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes you. Every time you take a step, you build momentum. You build strength. You start to see yourself in a new light. You stop seeing yourself as someone who's trapped and start seeing yourself as someone who's breaking free. Don't underestimate the power of action, even when it feels small. Imagine a river carving through rock. It doesn't do it in one day or with one massive blow. It does it with constant, consistent movement. Your actions, no matter how small they seem, have the power to reshape your life in ways you can't even imagine. Take a moment and ask yourself, what is one thing I can do today to take my power back? Don't overthink it. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just take the step. Because here's the magic: action begets action. One step leads to another, and before you know it, you're no longer surviving, you're thriving. You don't need permission to act. You don't need anyone to validate your choices. You don't need every answer figured out before you begin. You just need to move. Because the moment you move, the moment you decide to take back control, you ignite inside you. And that fire, that's your power coming back to life. Fill your life with growth-focused people. You've heard it before. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And let me tell you something, this isn't just a catchy quote. It's a life principle. Your environment is shaping you every single day, whether you realize it or not. And if you're surrounded by negativity, by people who drag you down, by voices that tell you to settle for less, guess what? You'll start to believe it. But what happens when you shift your circle? When you surround yourself with people who inspire you, who challenge you, who light a fire in your soul? Everything changes. Your mindset, your energy, your results, all of it begins to transform. Listen, if you're trying to grow, you can't afford to be around people who are stuck in the past, who thrive on drama, or who are committed to their own excuses. Growth-focused people don't just sit around and talk about problems, they talk about solutions. They don't criticize your dreams, they fuel them. They see your potential, even when you can't see it yourself, and they push you to higher. Think about the people in your life right now. Are they adding to your life or draining from it? Are they helping you build your confidence, or are they chipping away at it? Because the truth is, you can't build a life of abundance, joy, and freedom if you're surrounded by people who are stuck in scarcity, negativity, and fear. And let me be clear, this isn't about cutting people out of your life with coldness or resentment. It's about making choices that honor your growth. It's about recognizing that your time, your energy, and your focus are precious, and you can't waste them on relationships that don't support your journey forward. Growth-focused people are out there. They're the ones who are working on themselves just like you are. They're reading the books, having the conversations, taking the risks. They're not perfect, but they're committed to progress. And when you find those people, something incredible happens. You rise together. Imagine being in a room where every person believes in possibility, where every conversation leaves you energized, where every relationship is built on mutual respect and a shared vision for growth. That's the kind of environment where breakthroughs happen. That's where transformation becomes inevitable. But here's the catch: you don't just stumble in that kind of circle. You have to seek it out. You have to be intentional. Maybe it means joining a community, attending events, or reconnecting with that friend who inspires you but you've drifted away from. Maybe it means letting go of relationships that have been holding you back, even when it's hard. And it's not just about finding growth-focused people, it's about becoming one. Be the kind of person who uplifts others, who inspires action, who brings energy and passion into every room you enter. Because like attracts like, the more you grow, the more you'll attract people who are on the same path. So take a moment right now and ask yourself, who in my life is helping me grow? And just as importantly, am I showing up as someone who helps others grow? Because when you commit to building a life filled with growth-focused people, you're not just changing your environment, you're changing your destiny. Make your happiness non-negotiable. Let me ask you something. When did your happiness become optional? When did it become something you put on the back burner, something you sacrifice for someone else's comfort, someone else's approval? Somewhere along the way, you decided consciously or unconsciously that your happiness was negotiable, and that stops today. Happiness isn't a luxury. It's not a bonus prize you get at the end of life if you check all the right boxes. Happiness is your birthright. It's your natural state. And if you're living a life where your joy is dependent on someone else's mood, behavior, or validation, you've given away your power. You've got to make your happiness a non-negotiable priority. What does that mean? It means you stop apologizing for wanting a life that lights you up. It means you stop settling for crumbs when you deserve the whole feast. It means you take responsibility for your own joy and stop waiting for someone else to give it to you. Too many people believe happiness is something that happens to them. I'll be happy when my partner changes. I'll be happy when my job gets better. I'll be happy when life finally cuts me a break. Let me tell you something. If you're waiting for happiness to show up like a package at your door, you're going to be waiting forever. Happiness isn't something you find, it's something you create. And yes, life throws challenges at you. Yes, there are obstacles, pain, and moments that knock you down. But happiness isn't about avoiding those things. It's about deciding, no matter what's happening around me, I choose to protect my joy. Making your happiness non-negotiable means setting boundaries that protect your peace. It means saying no to what drains you and yes to what nourishes you unapologetically. It means refusing to let someone else's criticism, manipulation, or negativity steal your light. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who radiate energy, love, and confidence. Do you know their secret? They didn't wait for happiness, they made it their mission. They didn't compromise their joy for someone else's comfort. They decided my happiness isn't up for debate. And let me tell you this, when you make your happiness non-negotiable, you inspire others to do the same. You show them what's possible. You become a beacon of what it looks like to live authentically, to thrive, to choose joy even when the odds are stacked against you. So what does this mean for you? It means taking stock of your life and asking, where am I negotiating my happiness? Is it in a relationship that depletes you, a job that doesn't fulfill you, a routine that leaves no room for your passions? Whatever it is, it's time to make a change. You have one life and every single moment is precious. Don't waste another second waiting for permission to be happy. Don't waste another day settling for less than what makes your heart sing. Because when you decide that your happiness is non-negotiable, you don't just change your life, you set the standard for how the world treats you. Now, let's bring it all together. What you've just heard is more than advice. It's a blueprint for transformation. It's a call to action to break free from the chains of doubt, manipulation, and unworthiness and step into life you were meant to live. Here's the truth. Your life is yours, not theirs, not his. It's yours. And every single choice you make today, every decision to set a boundary, to stop seeking external validation, to surround yourself with people who lift you up, those choices are declarations of your power. Awareness is the first step. Recognizing the patterns, the pain, the things that no longer serve you, and deciding that they will no longer control your story. From there, you stop looking to someone else for your worth. You validate yourself, honor yourself, and commit to protecting your peace. And you take action, because action is how you reclaim your power. Action disrupts the cycle, builds momentum, and shows you day by day that you are capable of creating something extraordinary. You fill your world with people who are climbing alongside you, people who challenge you, support you, and inspire you to keep growing. And above all, you make your happiness non-negotiable. No more compromises, no more waiting, no more sacrificing your joy for someone else's comfort. When you do these things, something incredible happens. You stop surviving and start thriving. You stop living by default and start living by design. You realize that the life you've always wanted isn't something distant or unreachable. It's something you build one decision, one step at a time. This is your time. It's time to stop looking back, stop doubting your strength, and start moving forward, because you are worth it. Your happiness is worth it. And your future is worth fighting for. So take a deep breath, look in the mirror, and declare, this is my life. I take my power back today. Then go out there and make it happen. You've got this.